It's 11:47 p.m. The house is silent. Everyone else is asleep. But your brain just decided now is the perfect time to analyze every conversation you had today, question 3 life decisions, and mentally redesign a system nobody asked you to fix. If that's your normal Tuesday night, you might want to hear what psychology has to say about why. You're someone who has always felt slightly out of sync with the world around you. Not broken, not antisocial, just wired differently. Then welcome. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your brain works the way it does. Society has a very specific image of intelligence: the genius inventor, the straight A prodigy, the person who always has the fastest answer in the room. But here's the truth: most people miss real intelligence, the kind measured by cognitive processing speed, pattern recognition, and abstract reasoning. Almost never looks like that. In fact, many of the behaviors associated with extremely high IQ are the exact behaviors society tends to misread. The person sitting quietly in the corner? Not shy. Processing. The one who takes forever to make a decision? Not indecisive. Running simulations. The one who'd rather be alone on a Friday night? Not lonely. Recharging a prefrontal cortex that hasn't stopped working all week. Psychologists call this need for cognition, a deep, almost biological drive to think, analyze, and mentally explore complex ideas. Basically, it means your brain doesn't treat thinking as a tool you pick up when you need it. It treats thinking as its permanent default state. And that changes everything about how you experience the world. And there's one specific sign on this list that researchers say predicts high intelligence more reliably than almost any other. But we'll get to that. But first, let's break down what's actually happening inside that restless mind of yours. A study from the London School of Economics found that people with higher IQs actually report lower satisfaction from frequent social interaction. Not because they dislike people, but because their brains require more uninterrupted processing time than average. Think about that for a second. The very thing that makes someone feel guilty, choosing solitude over socializing, is literally a neurological preference hardwired into high IQ cognition. You weren't being rude all those times you turned down plans. Your brain was telling you exactly what it needed. And here's where it gets uncomfortable even for you. Most people with extremely high IQs don't actually believe they're intelligent. This connects to something called the Dunning-Kruger effect, but in reverse. While people with average knowledge tend to overestimate their abilities, highly intelligent individuals consistently underestimate theirs. Your brain is so good at seeing complexity that it assumes everyone else sees it too. And when they don't, you don't think you're smart. You think they just didn't try hard enough. Wild, right? But wait, it gets weirder. Because the signs of extreme intelligence aren't just mental, they show up in habits you've probably never questioned. Let's walk through the 7 signs and be honest with yourself about how many hit home. Sign 1. You spend a lot of time alone, by choice. Not because you can't socialize, but because solitude gives your prefrontal cortex the space it needs to process at full speed. Your brain literally performs better without external noise competing for its attention. That's not a personality flaw, that's advanced cognitive architecture doing exactly what it was designed to do. Sign 2. You overthink almost everything. A simple conversation, a decision about dinner, a text message you sent 3 hours ago. Your analytical brain doesn't have an off switch. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis. When a mind capable of extraordinary problem solving also gets trapped in its own depth. The same engine that makes you brilliant at reading situations also keeps you awake at 2 in the morning replaying one sentence someone said at lunch. Sound familiar? And here's what's fascinating. The next sign is the one most people hide, but it's actually one of the strongest indicators. Sign 3. You talk to yourself out loud, in your head, while driving, while cooking, while standing in the shower, working through a problem nobody asked you to solve. Psychologists call it self-directed speech, and research shows it actively improves focus, strengthens working memory, and helps the brain organize complex thoughts. That internal narrator isn't a quirk. It's a cognitive tool your brain invented to keep up with itself. Sign 4. You're constantly curious about everything. Not just big questions, small ones. Why did that person react that way? Why does this system work like that? Why does nobody else seem bothered by a pattern that's so obviously there? Your brain is a pattern detection machine that never stops scanning. And let's be honest, it's exhausting sometimes, but you couldn't turn it off even if you wanted to. And this is actually the sign researchers flag most consistently: sustained curiosity. The inability to stop asking why correlates more strongly with high IQ than almost any single trait. That open loop from earlier? This is the answer. But here's something that sounds contradictory. Sign 5. You're comfortable saying, I don't know. While less knowledgeable people often overestimate what they understand, highly intelligent minds do the opposite. You're painfully aware of how much you don't know, and instead of faking certainty, you sit with the discomfort of ambiguity. That's not weakness. That's intellectual honesty, operating at a level most people never reach. You'd rather be uncertain and accurate than confident and wrong. And there are still two signs left, and the last one might change the way you see yourself entirely. Sign 6. You have a dark or complex sense of humor. This isn't random. Humor requires the brain to recognize patterns, break expectations, and connect unrelated ideas simultaneously. Studies published in intelligence research journals show a measurable link between higher IQ and advanced humor processing. The jokes that make you laugh, the ones your friends sometimes don't get, they're a window into how fast your brain connects dots that other minds don't even see. Sign 7. You observe more than you speak. In conversations, you're not quiet because you have nothing to say. You're watching, reading the room, analyzing social dynamics, emotional shifts, and unspoken tensions before you respond. This is high-level pattern recognition applied to human behavior, and it's one of the most misunderstood signs of intelligence there is. People call it shy. Psychology calls it strategic processing. But let's be honest about something. Not all of this feels like a gift. That constant mental engine, it doesn't shut off at night. That depth of awareness, it can make the world feel heavier than it does for most people. Some highly intelligent individuals don't just overthink, they spiral. The same mind that sees beauty and complexity can also get trapped in existential weight. The questions get darker, the awareness gets lonelier, and the gap between what you see and what everyone else seems comfortable ignoring. That gap can feel enormous. The Polish psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski called this overexcitability, a heightened sensitivity where your nervous system responds to the world with far greater intensity than average. You don't just think more, you feel more. Beauty hits harder, injustice cuts deeper, and sometimes that volume gets overwhelming. So ask yourself honestly, do you sit in solitude because it fills you up, or because connection feels too exhausting to even attempt? Because one is peace, the other is hiding. And knowing the difference, that might be the most important thing you take from this entire video. Picture this. It's late at night. The house is quiet. Everyone else has been asleep for hours. And there you are, wide awake, thinking about something that happened 6 months ago or imagining a future scenario that may never exist. That's not insomnia. That's a high-performance brain running its nightly maintenance cycle. But it only feels like a gift when you understand what it actually is. Here's what nobody tells people like you. Your brain wasn't built for the same rhythm as everyone else's, and that's not a defect. That's a design feature. The overthinking, the solitude, the curiosity that never stops, the humor that goes too deep, the observation that never turns off. These aren't signs that something is wrong with you. They're signs that your cognitive system is running at a level most people will never experience. And here's the final piece. The reason you've always felt slightly out of sync with the world isn't that you don't belong. It's that your mind operates at a frequency most environments weren't designed for. When you find people who match that frequency, and you will, everything changes. Intelligence stops being a burden and becomes what it always was, a tool for curiosity, creativity, and genuine depth. You're not overthinking. You're not too much. You're just running software that most people don't have the hardware to understand.